I'm back with Jimmy and JoAnne Moriarty. Welcome to the show again. How are you guys?
Great.
We're doing okay.
You know, I don't know if people, if everyone watching us now saw last week, you guys were guests on the intelligence assessment with Kevin Shipp, and it was a fantastic show. We were talking about how dangerous disinformation can be, and it comes in all kinds of flavors, but Benghazi, the September 11th, 2012 attack on the CIA compound in Benghazi that resulted in the death of U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens, has been one of the most disinfoed operations, certainly in recent memory. And for people who might have missed last Thursday's show, they can catch it on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsource the truth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth. It was a fantastic episode. You can also see it on patreon.com/Kevin_Shipp. But the thing that's so important, Jimmy and JoAnne, about the experience that you guys have, you've got firsthand, in some cases, your own eyewitness accounts, but you also have developed unprecedented relationships with the tribes and the tribal leaders in Libya who are constantly giving you firsthand information now, even when you're not there, right?
Yep,
That's correct.
That's correct.
And in that vein, JoAnne and I are gonna continue to put our faces and our names at the top of the worst list of all the disinformation services, the at least 6 intelligence agencies that are trying to figure out some way to cause us to have an untimely demise. And we're going to have a rogues gallery tonight. We're going to name the names, and if we've got phony names for them, we'll give those of some more disinformation folks. And most of them are tied to Benghazi. It just shows what a terrible Achilles tendon that is for the deep state in the United States. JoAnne has always said that Libya and Benghazi is the worst, absolutely the worst case scenario.
Heel.
Yeah.
Why is that, JoAnne?
Yeah. Well, because what happened in Libya first in 2011, there was no revolution in Libya. It was a false flag, the whole thing. But the destruction of the country was not tempered by any other country or anybody else. It was just allowed to run free. And what they did to Libya is an example of what they would do anywhere if they were allowed to run free. This New World Order, this bankster cabal, whatever you want to call them, Khazarian mafia, they destroyed everything. They bombed power plants. They bombed water supplies. They arrested and killed innocent civilians. They raped women. And there were just thousands, 250,000 mercenaries brought in. NATO continued to bomb in front of them and kill anybody against them. What it was an invasion of a sovereign nation, a peaceful nation. And the United States, through their treaties, had removed almost all of Libya's defensive weapons. So they were just open to do whatever they want. Based on a couple lies, they were allowed to destroy the entire country, install their Muslim Brotherhood militias and terrorists and government in there, and just continue to steal from the country and the people. And this is exactly what they would do if they had nothing to stop them. And Libya should be looked at by every person with a discerning eye.
The UN resolution allowed or entitled the UN members to establish a no-fly zone in Libya under the auspices of protecting the civilians against attacks by the Libyan government. And nowhere in any of those resolutions did it authorize the unfettered annihilation and destruction of the country. 60,000 bombing sorties were executed on Libya. More bombs and rockets were dropped in Libya than World War II combined. And the 2 or 3 weeks that Hillary Clinton promised all her associates in her takeover of Libya didn't happen because the Libyan people enjoyed their life in Libya. They enjoyed their government. They were supportive of their government. So there was no revolution. There was no support of this takeover of the country. And 250,000 mercenaries were brought in, unlimited amount of weapons and air raids and everything in support of the CIA, Mossad, MI6 trained terrorists that were taken into Libya. And the destruction of Libya was assured by all these activities, and it continues to be overrun and continued damage by the Muslim Brotherhood, who is in control of that country.
Laura O'Neill is asking if all of this is connected to Israeli Mossad. Is it?
Mossad was there.
Yeah.
2011 played a big role in it. Mossad was actually taking young people and taking their organs. They found them in the hospitals later after the 2011 massacre was finished, and some of the humanitarian groups went in there into some of the hospitals. They just found a bunch of young dead bodies with all their organs removed, and they told us, the Libyan tribes told us, that was a Mossad, and they're doing that.
Wow.
But see, way back there, we were given a contract that the Mossad had issued with Muslim Brotherhood and other of those terrorist organizations, where the Mossad agreed to continually train and arm and support these terrorists and then take over of Libya in exchange for a permanent piece of the Green Mountain area, which is the prettiest part of Libya. And so the Mossad, and that was not Israel, that was the Mossad that had executed that agreement.
It was written in Hebrew, wasn't it?
Well,
yeah, we have a copy of that contract.
But you know, the thing, because it was so blatant, and I think JoAnne and I are a big piece of the reason that the truth has come out, because we were eyewitnesses there. We weren't supposed to be there, and after they found out we were there, we weren't supposed to get out alive. And so all the intel and all the material and all the videos and photos and everything that we took, that's raw intel. It belongs to us. Never been employed by any government, so they can't stop us from publishing it. They can via blocks on a lot of the social media sites. But
let's talk about the show.
Yeah, we are gonna. The reason we do these shows on Patreon is because we are able to release the information. We are able to release the photos that have been blocked on all the social media sites. And tonight we've got a despot class of 4 villains that we're going to expose. We're going to give their photos. We're going to give their real names, their alternate names. We're going to explain how they're part of this disinformation system.
We're going to talk about the disinformation they put out, and we're going to show how just day before yesterday I tried to post an article about what actually the UN had done by putting this puppet government in that's run by Muslim Brotherhood in Tripoli. An article I put out actually in 2017, and there's complaining in Libya now because of the nepotism that's going on in that Muslim Brotherhood phony puppet government that was never elected, not supported by the Libyan people,
and has no charter.
And they're just there, and they control the militias and the terrorists. Well, they appointed 11 ambassadors to embassies around the world for Libya in 11 different countries. In 11 different countries, all family members of these people.
Nobody's talking about this on mainstream news, JoAnne. It seems that people really need to be going to LibyanWarTheTruth.com daily to get this kind of information, and hopefully they'll also become sponsors on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, because you're really the only ones with direct access to these tribes in Libya. And with disinformation and the dangers of disinformation being the subject we're going to cover tonight, I don't think we would be doing justice to not mention that this whole entire war was enabled by dangerous disinformation. Since I was a little boy, I remember seeing Ronald Reagan on the television talking about how dangerous and horrible Gaddafi was, but you've told us, and you've even brought on guests from Libya. Mufta, give us Mufta's full name again, if you would, please.
Mufta Faraj.
Mufta Faraj joined us. He told us, other Libyan friends of yours have told us, that Gaddafi was loved by the people of Libya. What have your friends in Libya said about these photographs? It's amazing how gruesome the photographs of Gaddafi they allowed to be published and even promoted. We haven't seen a single photograph of dead Osama bin Laden. We haven't seen a single photograph of dead Jeffrey Epstein, but yet with Gaddafi, they show him stabbed, violated, in the process of dying, video of him begging for his life. Irrespective of what people think of Gaddafi, it's pretty inhumane.
It's terrible. What he said, one of the things he said was, What did I ever do to you? To the people that killed him. France was right in the lead on this one.
In the assassination of Gaddafi, the French mercenaries were the ones that actually committed these acts on him. There were a couple of Blackwater guys there also, but these things are unacceptable, and really for the entire destruction of Libya was a false flag operation from start to finish, and the reason was that Gaddafi had started the gold-backed currency for the continent of Africa, and the toilet paper makers couldn't have that. So they make up this long, phony story, and they blow the country up.
Interesting, though, Jason. I don't think anybody knows where Gaddafi is buried.
Wow. Why is that?
Now they don't.
He said he took him out in the desert and buried him, but that's
they didn't want it. They didn't want him to be made a martyr.
They put him over a ship. There's a lot
but it's
of
clear that Gaddafi's dead. We've seen video of him being stabbed repeatedly.
Maybe they thought he was going to be dug up and violated or
made
something.
a martyr. They didn't want him to be a dead hero.
So what do the people in Libya say about these photos and videos of Gaddafi, their beloved leader?
They can't stand to. It makes them angry. They can't stand to look at him. They say that, the evil that came to our country, the dirty game that was played to us. This man was a beloved leader. He was like an imam to the country. He was not in the government at all. He had no control over the military.
He actually stepped down as one of the conditions of the Treaty of 2006. So he resigned as the leader of the country then, and after that, he really had a position of a spiritual leader. But they had an election. They elected a prime minister. Baghdadi was his name.
They had two houses. They had an elected House of Representatives, and then they had the General Secretariat of the tribes, and those are elected leaders of all the tribes. 200, I think, was in the General Secretariat. So they had really a lot purer democracy than we do.
The country had no debt. The country operated on about 41% of its income from oil and gas. The rest of the money was partitioned out amongst the people. And they say, he was a socialist. Well, let me tell you the difference. The money that was distributed to the Libyan people came from the natural resources that were in situ in that country. The government was not taking money from all the people and spreading it out. They were taking the income from the riches of the country and distributing that amongst the people. Country had no debt. The people had no debt.
There's no tax.
It was the lowest cost of living, really, of any place in the world.
Let me relay to you guys some of the comments from our chat. You've answered one of them already. Benjamin was asking if Gaddafi was taken out because he created the gold dinar, and of course that was one of the primary reasons, but there were so many reasons, as you're saying, plundering the rich resources of the country. From France's standpoint, there was this sort of unholy deal between Sarkozy and Gaddafi, illegally financing his presidential campaign. Very Clintonian of Mr. Sarkozy to do that. But it all seems to come back to Hillary Clinton and the Clinton crime family's cabal of international globalist criminals who just feel like they can do whatever they want. I mean, people really need to consider how, we would have been driven to war if a U.S. president, if Barack Obama was killed and displayed in video, and these videos were left up for years. It would be so outrageous. And I'm sorry to keep focusing on this question, but has there been any specific discussion about this photo, these guys who are huddled around? They've identified who is and who is not Libyan in the past. Has anybody said anything about these guys in baseball caps? Do we know if they're Libyans or mercenaries?
No, they're mercenaries.
Most of them are mercenaries. Any Libyans in the picture are now ashamed of themselves or have been killed by other Libyans. This is not a picture anybody should ever be proud of. And the Libyans certainly aren't proud of it.
They were promised, the phrase that was used is they would have more money than the Saudis. If they were part of this revolution, they would have more money than the Saudis. And of course, there was no alcohol in Libya. Mm-hmm. So the CIA, Mossad, MI6 mercenaries, they brought in truckloads of alcohol and drugs. And so these young men that may have been hormones raging or whatever, and pump them full of alcohol and Viagra, and then tell them they're turn them loose and tell them they can do whatever they want. And you give a dog a couple of licks of alcohol and the dog goes crazy. These people had not been accustomed to any kind of stimulants or anything like that.
The Libyans had, the mercenaries may have.
We also need to talk about the fact that they wanted to create this mass migration problem in Europe to create a crisis, and Libya was basically a stopgap, preventing migrants from going from North Africa into Europe, and now that's totally gone. We've heard about slave trading going on in Libya. I mean, anywhere there's this lawlessness going on where, warlords are in control, gun running and all kinds of things are facilitated. We're getting very close to the end of our preview conversation here. We're going to be carrying on with the main subject on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. For people who missed Jimmy and JoAnne's appearance on the intelligence assessment with Kevin Shipp last week, I really would encourage you to get on to Patreon and take a look at that. We're going to be following up on some of the topics that were raised and going even more in depth, as Jimmy said, going to be naming names and talking specifically about people who are involved in this, because one of the things that's been concerning to me is that a lot of people like to say, well, the Muslims did this, or Mossad did that, Israel did this. And obviously, elements of each of these are involved in all of these things, but the CIA seems to play a major role. And it's problematic for me when, an agency like CIA or Mossad gets lumped together with the country that it's affiliated with and all of the people in that country. Because I've been seeing a lot of us versus them, a lot of hatred being fomented on the internet, and it's difficult for us to know who are social engineers coming in and saying things like this, who is left with a legitimate question in their mind from this type of activity. So we like to be very explicit. I mean, when we say CIA, you guys are going to name people, show their pictures and say, this person in the CIA lied to us about X, Y, and Z. And that gets us much closer. I don't want to, tear down the United States. I don't want to tear down any country. I do want to eliminate the corruption, the criminality. I think we've got a mostly good thing here. We just need to get rid of the criminals that are destroying it. And we need, as you said, JoAnne, we need to look at Libya as something that should never be allowed to happen in any country ever again.
That's right.
Well, these agencies that do these horrendous acts are not representing the people of the United States. They're representing deep state. They're representing foreign entities that are running the banking worldwide. And if it ever gets to the point that the people of the United States will condone the kinds of activities that these intelligence agencies use worldwide, then we might as well go check it in. Because what these agencies do have nothing to do with the people of the United States.
Right.
They're rogue, period. And they work for rogues, and they're all bad guys.
Yeah, and we certainly, to some extent, are condoning it. When this happens, Hillary Clinton receives a text message and laughs about it, and then she's able to run for president rather than being held accountable for these horrendous war crimes. So we're going to wrap it up here on YouTube and Periscope and Facebook. I want to thank everybody who's watching us. I want to encourage people who are watching the show here to join us over on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And lastly, I want to let everybody know, if they're just learning about Jimmy and JoAnne right now, they should go over to LibyanWarTheTruth.com. That's Jimmy and JoAnne's free website. You can sponsor them with PayPal donations over there. They've got a donate button. You can subscribe to the email list, And you can also purchase their DVD, Escape from Al-Qaeda. Jimmy and JoAnne are the only people known to have been captured by Al-Qaeda and to have made it out alive. The DVD includes documents, photographs, and videos that they took while they were in Libya, and it's a $15 DVD that will ship to you within the United States for $5. If you become a sponsor on Jimmy and JoAnne's Patreon page, just send them an email and they're going to ship the DVD to you free shipping. It's just $15 without the $5 shipping fee for sponsors on Patreon. So thank you so much, Jimmy and JoAnne. We'll be back in just 10 minutes on Patreon. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you, Jason.